UFC 293 is over and we have a brand new champion. Mark and I are going to talk about this card, but before we do, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we have brand new videos every single week. So, Mark, let's talk about the main event. Sean Strickland, I'll say it again, Sean Strickland has defeated Israel Adesanya to become the new middleweight champion of the world. I usually always ask you, were you expecting this? But clearly you were. Nobody was. I think even the most avid Sean Strickland fans were not picking Sean in this, and yet he shocked the world. How shocked are you, Mark?
Well, look, these are the moments that make you just, you realise why you're a fan. These are some of those special moments. He'll remember this forever. We all will, as the day that Sean Strickland dethroned Israel Adesanya. I've eaten my words once again, Dwayne. I thought Israel was going to dominate and get a finish. But Sean Strickland used that word, dominated for 5 rounds. It was 4-1 on the judges' scorecard. It was phenomenal performance by Sean Strickland. He just kept cutting Izzy off. It was amazing.
He really did. He just seemed to come in with a fantastic game plan. He was keeping Izzy up against the fence, trapping him off on the cage. He did a great job. And like you, I'll hold my hands up. I was not expecting Strickland to do well at all. I thought he was going to bite on some feints, get caught with something really heavy. But I don't want to take anything away from Strickland. Certainly not. But this looked like a very, very different Izzy. What do you think of Izzy's performance overall? I've never seen him quite fight like that before.
I'm always careful in what I say because I am very much just an armchair fan, and it is very easy for me to critique people when I've never stepped in the cage myself. But this is probably the worst I've ever seen Adesanya perform. It seemed to be after that first round where Strickland dropped him and started raining them shots on him. Maybe it knocked his equilibrium, it knocked his confidence, everything. It gave Sean that confidence, knowing I can drop the champion if I land these shots. That jab for Strickland landed home all night. It couldn't not land. I don't know. Israel it wasn't like he was hesitant. It was just like a kind of shell version of his previous self. I'm not, no disrespect to him in that, because I still regard him as one of the best strikers ever. But compared to his last fights, you can't help it. That's just the way that I see it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Not Strickland, Izzy just did not look the fighter he usually is. And I don't want to play those sort of games because I hate when people say stuff like that, like, oh, they work themselves, they had an off night. But he just was not the level I was expecting from Izzy. You know, he's supposed to be one of the best strikers in the UFC, and he got caught at every moment. And in that first round, he was looking great. I mean, not a lot was happening, but he was looking really good. And it felt like you were saying that knockdown in the first round just changed the whole momentum. It really put Izzy on notice, and he thinks, right, I can get caught here. I've got to be careful. And the problem is he just didn't seem to put his foot on the gas through the whole fight. Do you think they'll do an instant rematch, or do you think because Izzy's only had one defense after he beat Pereira, or do you think we'll get something totally new?
No, I don't think, and exactly for that reason as well. This was his first defense after he reclaimed the belt. Granted, he's the only 2-time middleweight champion, but I think by rights it should be Duplessis versus Strickland, and Adesanya should need to do another fight before he comes back. But look at this. The sweat hasn't even been wiped off both of their bodies yet, and we're already talking about what's next. This is just us being greedy fans. But honestly, tonight is Sean Strickland's night. Let him live through this, like all the naysayers, everything like that, myself included. Like I said, I've held my hands up before. Sean Strickland, I can't believe he's saying that though. Sean Strickland dominated Israel Adesanya to get a 5-round decision win.
It's
a
crazy,
unanimous decision.
Never
ever
absolutely
thought.
Crazy.
I had money on Adesanya to finish him, quite a heavy amount, and then I had a little bit on Sean to finish Adesanya, so it would have evened out. I would have never have expected this to go to decision either. Like you said earlier, Israel looked poised, he looked coiled like a rattlesnake ready to strike in that first round. After that knockdown, since then, it just seemed like he didn't have that same mystique about him. He didn't have that like unpredictability and everything, because Sean was chasing him. Israel was walking towards the cage and Sean was just hunting him down, and help.
It's not.
We can't
It's
take
not what
it
I was
away.
expecting. Yeah, it was not what I was expecting at all, and I'm kicking myself because I literally just before the card, I nearly put a bet on Strickland just to win. I thought, oh, I might just stick it on. I thought, nah, I won't bother. I thought, I'll just throw away £5. I'll be a millionaire now. Well, I'd have won a ten. I'd have won a tenner. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really, really excited to see what can happen next. Because with Strickland and Izzy, to be honest though, Strickland versus Duplessis does not sound like a fun main event. I think that'll be wild. But what we could get is this is our chance to get Whitaker and Izzy 3. If they're both coming off a loss, that could be a
Yep.
really fun fight and see what happens with that.
Well, the thing is there though. You say that Strickland versus Duplessis, it doesn't sound like a main event, and you're right, it doesn't. Look at where
Yeah.
Strickland was late last year. He fought on the last card of 2022, and he fought on the first card of 2023, avenging that loss, getting a win.
Yeah.
And after Cannonier fight, and he's managed to just turn it around. And you look at Duplessis before the Whitaker fight. He had was it Derek Brunson? Was it
Yeah.
Brunson that he fought? Yeah, Derek Brunson, and before that, a few other guys, gets an unexpected knockout over Robert Whitaker. Strickland has turned it around in what we're in now, September, in 9 months. So that's why it seems we don't have that prestige of Israel having a million title defenses or whatever. But that's just the way of the game, though, isn't it? These new stars have broke through. We've said before, mate, anyone who can finish Rob Whitaker deserves a title shot straight away.
100%.
And
Definitely.
Strickland has just proved, he
And
dominated Adesanya, so it's the way
yeah,
of it.
and that's the thing. It's such a lovely moment for Strickland as well, isn't it? You don't want to get too sentimental and stuff, but just I don't think Strickland ever thought he'd be champion, and I don't think a lot of fans ever thought he'd be a champion. So it's a really surprising moment, and I was rooting for Izzy throughout this. He's not one of my favorite fighters or anything, but I was rooting for him. But I'm just glad it's happened. I'm so happy for Sean. It's just a lovely moment. But let's move on to the co-main event. Not such a lovely moment for Mark. Tai Tuivasa was submitted, I think, with an Ezekiel choke in round 2. It's a shame for Ty because he's on the sort of what is it, 3-fight losing streak now, but he's lost to some of the top guys, so it's okay. But it is just sad to see that kind of thing, isn't it, for Ty, especially when he's such a big fan favorite.
Well, that's exactly it. He's a fan favorite, and it comes up against someone like Volkov, and I think it. Do you think he's one of the last heavyweights to have that stand and bang mentality? Because the game has changed so much now. And there's people like Volkov. Volkov, you don't want to write anyone off, especially with what's happened earlier tonight, but you don't expect him to ever be champion. He's going to be sticking around that, ranked 5 to 10 mark, around about that era. And Tai Tuivasa came up, after knocking out Derek Lewis, he got Cyril Gane. That's the way it went. And it just seems the heavyweight division has moved on from Ty's style of fighting, as much as it pains me to say, because who doesn't want to see Ty get a round 1 or 2 knockout, do a shoey on the side of the fence after coming out to Aqua Barbie Girl or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's a good thing that the heavyweight division is getting so dynamic now. You've got people like John Jones, even Stipe, Aspinall, Blades. You've got all these high technique leveled guys, and so people like Lewis and Ty, they're now a dying breed in a sense in that sort of top of the division. But I don't think I ever want to lose big heavyweights just swinging, because it is so fun. It's there's some of the worst fights and some of the best fights all in one go. So I really don't want to lose that. And the thing is, with the heavyweight division, you never know. You really, really never know. Don't forget, Ty dropped Gane, and I lost my mind. And he could have been moved up, and he could have fought John Jones. So anything can happen. So I won't be writing off Ty or even Lewis yet. So don't forget, talking about technique, Lewis got a crazy flying knee the other day. So, but I think you're right in the sense that these guys can't rest on their laurels forever. They need to be moving.
Well, it's like you said in the predictions earlier this week, Dwayne, sorry to cut you off there. You said the thing about this fight in general, regardless of fighting styles and whether the fan favourites or not, is what's the actual outcome of this? Because it's not as if it's a number one contenders fight. It was a co-main event. It's just because, where Ty's from and it was based in Sydney. There's no real reward for them. Like, who's Volkov going to fight now? This is all just speculation because it's still the night of the fight. But you think, what is the reward? Even if Ty won, well, he still was on a 2-fight losing skid. And now, so it was a fun matchup. Obviously wasn't a fun outcome for me, but that's just my biased self.
But you hit such a good point there. That I think that's the whole problem with this whole card, apart from the main event, is it just don't mean anything. There's no number one contender spots on the line. It's not moving rankings up and down. It really is just a very stale card. Not that it's not a fun card with some really fun fights on it, but none of it meant anything, and that's the real shame. And like you were saying before we start recording, is Sean Strickland winning the title has kind of saved this card and probably marked it down in the history books now as something phenomenal. But I tell you what was a fun fight. We had Manel Cap facing off Felipe Dos Santos, making his UFC debut, and Felipe looked fantastic. He looked great. He might have lost, but he looked really, really good. What did you think about that fight, Mark?
I thought could have been fight of the night. I don't know what the bonuses were yet, but it could well have been. And like you say, UFC debut, 23 years of age. It was a late replacement for Kai France against Cap. And I must admit, I was rooting for Felipe, seeing as how Cap's a bell end. To put it. But, full fight throughout. He had his moments. He's got if that's his UFC debut, I'm sure he'll have a few fight deal signed. If it was just a one-off, surely he'll be re-signed again. He's proved that he definitely belongs there. In his debut to be fighting the number 10 ranked, and he did that well. Granted, it was a unanimous decision, but it could save the flyweight division. A strange thing is, though, Dwayne, because that fight was wedged in between two heavyweight fights, so they looked so quick. Like grease lightning, weren't they? Compared to the heavyweights before and after.
It was so quick paced. And you're right, actually, it really did feel not just physically fast, but their pace, they kept it up throughout. I thought, they're going to slow down any minute, and they didn't. It was foot on the gas the whole way through. And I'm really, really excited to see where Felipe goes next. He's got a fan out of me 100%. I'm really, really excited to see where his career went. But I think with the card, that's kind of it really for excitement. I mean, there was some fun KOs and stuff, but as a card overall, there's not much else of interest. Did anything else sort of pull your attention at all, Mark, on this card?
Well, we were speaking earlier about the heavyweights that stand and bang, and you love to see it. Justin Tafa, I'm always a fan of him. I've followed every single one of his UFC fights. Got the round 1 knockout against Austin Lane in the rematch. The funny thing is, though, Dwayne, the first fight ended via eye poke. Within, 20, 30 seconds, Austin poked Justin in the eye again. And you think, what the hell's going on here? So I was glad that Justin came out and cleaned him out. What a left hand to finish the fight after a flurry of punches. Obviously, opening up the main card was the return of my boy, Tyson Pedro. You can't not love this guy. The energy that he brings. Coming off his last loss, I think he really did need to prove something, and he beat Anton. And I'm not going to try and pronounce his second name, but his nickname is the Pleasure Man.
Oh, nice.
And he managed to clean him out.
No one's ever called me that before. But I think, but I think for a card that I was expecting to be terrible, it was actually quite enjoyable. I really, really had a good time, and topped off with a fantastic main event with a huge surprise. And again, I'm really, really happy for Sean. But I do think that's all we've got time for. Thank you for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.